Hi, welcome to One Pose. We're going to look at standing splits today. Now, if that alarms you, just stick with me. Everything I'm going to offer you is ways that we can make this pose more accessible to you, so that maybe if you're not ready to dive into standing splits, we can show you some ways that you can get the energetic benefits of the pose by using some modifications. So we're going to start off on your back. One of the things about standing splits is that it's going to really require a lot of stretch in the back of the leg and the hamstring muscles that come between the glutes and the knee. So we're just going to start for a moment, and I'm hoping that when you're taking this short practice right now that this isn't the first thing you've done today, so hopefully you're a little bit warmed up already. But we're going to look at putting the strap around the ball of the foot, and then just starting with bending the knee as you're exhaling, and then stretching through the leg on your inhale. And you might keep the left leg bent with the left foot on the ground as you're moving that right leg, or you might stretch the leg out long. And I call this kind of an upside down split, where we're just getting the legs to come into that striding position. I'm just taking a couple more breaths, inhaling to straighten the leg, push through both heels, and then exhaling in. And noticing as you do this that when you straighten the leg, there's a sense of the front of the thigh engaging. So you might even think about the kneecap pulling down towards the hip when you straighten the leg to really engage that muscle. We're going to take one more time, and this time we'll stay there for a moment. And as you're here, you could take your left hand, touch it behind your head, and then lift your nose up towards your knee. Maybe draw the leg in a little closer. And again, we're just experiencing what that's like to have this nose to knee relationship, how your belly and your thigh are coming towards one another. And then relaxing the head back down. If you've lifted it, bend the right knee, put the right foot on the ground, and switch over to the left leg. So when we change our relationship to gravity, that's one way that we can just look at the pose differently. So we're inhaling to straighten this leg and then exhaling to bend the knee. Noticing your low back. So if possible, having a natural arch in your low back right now. If you straighten your leg and you notice that you're pushing the low back in the ground, kind of lifting your sits bones up, see if you can do less of a straightening of the leg so that the low back is staying really stable and it's just the leg that's getting a stretch and a little work here. So we're exhaling to bring the knee towards the chest and inhaling to straighten, and we'll stay there this time. And then I could keep my right leg as it is, or I could stretch it out, push through both heels. Again, feel the quadriceps, the front of that left thigh working. Maybe I lift my head up and experience this version of standing splits lying on your back. And I really want the nose to come towards the knee, but here I have to work for it. So it's going to help to stretch out the backside of the body next time you're exhaling, lowering everything down, bending the knees, bringing both feet onto the ground. And just taking a moment to breathe in and then breathe out through the mouth. I'm going to roll over through your fetal position and come right up into tabletop position. So another way that we can get ready for this is to stretch the right leg back behind in your tabletop position. You could keep the toes on the ground, or you could lift that leg up. And what we're feeling here is the stability that we need to create in the body in order to balance. So push down into the hands, into that left knee, the top of the left foot. Feel how the belly lifts into your body. And then as you exhale, draw your right knee in towards your nose and round for a moment. And again, feel that you're holding there. You're dropping the head over. Your knee and your nose are coming towards one another, and you feel that folding position. We take one more breath like that. And then as you inhale, stretch the right leg back out. Push into the calf muscle, and then switch to the opposite side, extending the left leg back behind, pressing down into the ground and feeling really firm and tall. You might notice how this is a little bit like Warrior 3, the position we can do where we balance on one leg, feeling how you're parallel to the ground. You could lift the leg up as we stay a little longer. If that feels good to you, just make sure the toes are pointing downward. When I rotate the leg out, you could maybe even turn the toes out and feel that. What's going to happen is the right hip is going to follow. So as I keep everything square here, it just stabilizes. Now single leg cat, exhaling and draw your knee in towards your nose in towards your knee, rounding through your back and really bringing the top of the body down to the leg. Taking one more breath there, and then inhaling to stretch the leg back out again, stretch through the calf, and then return into tabletop position. Inhaling, and as you exhale, settle into child's pose if that works for you. You could always just lower your forehead down to the ground if that's better, and keep the hips high.
Just take a breath for a moment and notice the surrender of the upper back, of the neck, of the head. So often in standing splits, we forget that the most important thing here is this inversion that happens, the way that we can drop the head at the same time that we're balancing and lifting the leg. So we're just remembering that feeling, full surrender of the head, and then we'll rise back up into table. So I'm going to take 2 blocks and bring them up to the front of the mat. You could do this with your hands on the ground if you'd prefer that. But from your tabletop position, step the right leg forward, bring your hands to the blocks, and then the left leg can come back into your lunge. And we're going to come into that warrior 3 position now. So I might step my blocks forward a little more, fingertips on the blocks, and then lift up so that I'm stacking my shoulders right over my wrists. I could keep my toes on the ground here too if that's better. So right now I have a really long spine. I'm not surrendering the head at all. I'm pushing out through the crown of the head, feeling that balance. And maybe as you take another breath here, you want to lift the hands off the blocks and bring them to the chest and just feel that work in your right leg. And then as you're exhaling, bring everything back down to the ground. You can find your hands all the way on the ground, step back into tabletop position, and then exhaling to step the left leg forward and find a lunge on the left side. So we're just really quickly warming up into the back of the legs. You can feel as you're here bringing the blocks forward, stepping up and finding warrior 3, whether the foot's on the ground or the foot is lifted. Pressing down into the left foot and noticing how much work is going on in the back of the leg, in the outside of the hip. The more you keep that right hip dropping down towards the ground, the more stable the hips will be, the more work it will be too. And as you're exhaling, dropping everything back down to the ground, again to your lunge, and then into tabletop position. And then just tucking your toes and lifting to downward dog. Step your feet out about as wide as your mat, turn your toes inward, and stretch through the back of the legs. So as you push into the hands, lift the hips high, and just get a nice stretch all the way from the heels up towards the sits bones. See if you can surrender your head here. Get used to that feeling of being upside down. And then keep the head hanging down and start walking your feet forward towards your hands to come into a forward fold position. So your hands might need to come up to the blocks at this point. But see if you can find a place, however bent the knees need to be, that you can relax the head over. So hands could be on the legs, the blocks, or the floor. Just give your head a really gentle shake, no, and then a really gentle shake, yes. And see if you can feel that relationship of the knee and the nose, the folding of the belly and the thigh. And then we'll come up to standing position, bending into the knees, hands on the thighs. Rise all the way up into your mountain pose. And just pause for a moment and notice your body. And then I'll show you a way that you could try standing split now. So I have a chair. You could do this with a wall. Even in a doorway, if you were to put your foot just on the frame of the door, it would work too. But I'm going to use this to be able to lift my foot up. So I'll start in that warrior 3 position. I'm going to bring my blocks back and set up in my lunge with my foot right next to my chair so that as I lift up, I can come here and then step my foot up onto the chair. Now what makes this standing splits is that I'll start to grab my right hand around my right calf and bring my nose down towards my knee. So this left hand might stay on the block, it might come down onto the floor, and I could choose, maybe on my inhale, to lift my leg up. So and notice, standing splits, you can turn the knee out and lift the leg higher. Just notice for you if that interferes with this inversion, this surrender of the head, the nose to the knee. So however high that back leg is, whether it's on the chair, the floor, just really surrender the head. And as you exhale, step back into forward fold. Inhale, half lift and lengthen. Fold down again and notice how one leg is going to feel different than the other. It almost feels as though my right leg is a little longer than my left leg right now. And then we'll come back to do that on the other side. So inhaling, come into a half lift. Take the right leg and step it back now. So it could be lunging, or I could put it up on top of my chair. And I want to have a sense that I'm really reaching out through the crown of the head. And as you're reaching out through the crown of the head, feel that sturdiness so that you can start to fold forward. Left hand can come to your calf muscle. And as you fold down into your standing splits, you could put that right hand on the ground. You could lift the right foot up if you want. Push through both heels, but make sure that the head is soft. We're surrendering the neck the back, folding down over that leg. Lift that right leg as high as you'd like, but know that that doesn't need to be the goal. And then as you're exhaling, bringing everything safely back down to the ground, step it all the way up to forward fold. Inhale to take a half lift and lengthen, and then exhale and fold down over your legs. Give a little shake again. Maybe you need to breathe in through the nose and then out through the mouth. And then as you bend into your knees, rise all the way back up into your mountain pose. And pause here in your mountain pose. Maybe even close your eyes and notice how the legs are feeling. Noticing the sense from the heels up to the sits bones, that full back of the leg. If you have any different activation there or sensation. Good. Thanks for trying out standing splits with me today. I hope it'll make your practice more fun and accessible.